Percentages, converting from fractions and decimals using number chips. This is a digital lesson, and this one's pirate themed. The students are going to move these number chips around their screen in order to change these fractions and decimals to percentages. So the lesson starts with showing students some pretty easy conversions, and it tells them what a percentage is. So it's a comparison out of 100. So 45% means 45 out of 100. So here you can see you have a decimal. If you know how to read it correctly, that's 56 hundredths, which is the same as 56 hundredths as a fraction. And because we're comparing out of 100, it's 56%. So 73 hundredths, 73%. And then when we get down to the bottom here, 1 whole would be 100%. So students are going to start here on slide 3. They're going to move these chips into place to show these conversions from decimals to percentages. Now every slide has every number the students need, so if they get to the end of a slide and the numbers aren't working, they know they've made an error somewhere and they need to go back and check. So here, this one's pretty simple. They just click and hold on the edge and move them into place. So we got 12 hundredths is 12%, 59 hundredths is 59%, and then down here at the end we get 1 whole is 100%, and so on. Now one way to convert a decimal to a percentage is to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So here we have 62 hundredths. If we move the decimal point 2 places to the right, we get 62%. Here we get 174%. And then here, if we have to move it 2 places to the right, but there's no number here, we just have to add a 0. So this is 30%, not 3%. On the next slide, students are going to be a little careful on this one. They're just moving their decimal point 2 places to the right. So here they get 65%. And this one, if they move 2 places to the right, they get 6.5%. This one is not 7%, it's 70% because I have to add a 0. And this one would be 7%, and so on. Now, to convert a fraction to a percentage, we can change it to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But if we can, we're going to convert it to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. And then we're comparing out of 100. So here, if I have 9/20ths, I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator by 5 so that I do the same thing to the numerator and denominator, and I get an equivalent fraction. So 45 hundredths would be 45 hundredths as a decimal and 45%. So the next 3 slides, students are going to be doing that. So they want to convert this to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. So here's 100, and we know we have to multiply 20 times 5 to get 100, so we're going to multiply 6 times 5 also, and we're going to get 30 hundredths. Now 30 hundredths as a decimal, and it slipped on me, here we go, which would be 30%. And they're going to do the same thing on the next problem. Convert it to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator, change it to a decimal, and then a percentage. Same thing on the next slide, and same thing on slide 9. Now sometimes we can't directly convert our fraction to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. I can't multiply 40 times any number and get 100. So I'm going to try next to simplify the fraction. If I simplify 18/40ths, I divide the numerator and denominator by 2, I get an equivalent fraction of 9/20ths. Now I have a fraction that I can convert to 100 by multiplying numerator and denominator by 5. Then I get 45 hundredths, which is 45 hundredths as a decimal, which is 45%. So the next 2 slides, they're going to be simplifying first and then changing it to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. Now we get to slide 13. We have some fractions that we can't convert to 100 in the denominator. This is already simplified. So the only thing I can do at this point then is to use long division. And I'm going to take 5 and divide it by 8, because fractions are just division. So 5 divided by 8, and this is all done for the students so they can see this example. I get 625 thousandths. Then I move my decimal point 2 places to the right, and I get 62.5%. The next slide, most of the division is done for them. They just need to move the numbers into place. And they also have a movable decimal point so they can place it correctly in their answer. So 8 goes into 10 one time, so I'm going to move my 1. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtract, bring down a 0. 8 goes into 20 2 times. 8 times 2 is 16. Subtract, and it looks like this needs to be moved over. 4, and I bring down another 0. I get 40, so 8 times 5. 8 goes evenly into 45 times. So I get 125 thousandths. I'm going to move my decimal point 2 places to the right, and I get 12. And I'm going to move that decimal point 12.5%. Now, the last one, they have to do all of the work themselves. They've got all the numbered chips they need, and they need to move that decimal point. They get a little nice work at the end when they finish the final slide. So this is the pirate version of percentages converting from fractions and decimals.